Well, Pochettino might have his goalkeeper at this point, too, because Matt Freese was outstanding. In penalties before that, yes, maybe he gives up the deflection where the equalizer goes in for Costa Rica. You can pick nits the entire time. But we didn't think that this was going to be a situation where Matt Turner was going into the World Cup not going to be the starting goalkeeper. There's a big question now, and it seems like Freese is starting to solidify his spot. The semis are set. Everybody was thinking, might be a chance to see Canada, and that would be a great test for the U.S. men's national team, but not going to happen. A feisty Guatemala team advancing 6-5 on PKs themselves into the semis, and the other one, Mexico and Honduras. What does this tell us about where the men's national team is at? Because you can look at this a lot of different ways. These are all players that are fighting for a spot on next year's World Cup team.
Yeah, I'm going to start off by saying something right now. I'm a little tired of hearing about this being a B squad. I've had enough of hearing that. And I understand why we're getting that conversation right now. You have all these players that are missing or players that chose not to show up or are injured. But for me, why is there an ipso facto A team for the United States men's national team? I look at this team. What has the A team accomplished over the past calendar year? Losses to Panama in knockout round games. They haven't shown me anything that's proven that they deserve to be written in pen as A-team players. I think we all get so hung up on where these guys are playing their club ball right now that we don't pay attention to what the actual form is with the national team. And there's two different things here. There's form for your club, and there's form for your country. I think we've seen time and time again across the world that they don't always line up.
No.
This men's national team right now, to me, is a young group of players who are hungry, who want to be there, who might be missing a little bit of that quality that we're talking about with some of the players that are missing. But I think they're making up for it in certain ways with a little bit of bite, a little bit of fight, and they found a way to get a result. And you can minimize it by saying, oh, Costa Rica, you beat Costa Rica, you had to go to penalties to do so. You had to come from behind to do so. Well, the A-team wasn't able to do that against Panama the last two times they faced them in knockout rounds. Costa Rica are just as good of a challenge, if not more so, than Panama. So for me, I think it's time to stop belittling this group of players and see if they can continue this run in this competition and actually turn the heat up on some of those supposed A-team players.
You know, it's totally fair because it's a brand new coach. I mean, Mauricio Pochettino getting his first few cracks, really, since he was hired now with the guys that he has in front of him. And we haven't seen the same belief and the same intensity and the same will of those quote-unquote A-team players, right? So at this point, it almost begs the question, how much does that matter and how much does individual talent matter when you get into a World Cup where the opportunities are limited to train, right? I mean, Pochettino's trying to put in his system, but you talked about it. Some players have a lot of experience and a lot of success with their club teams, but they don't get in that same rhythm for a national team. I would like to see players that want to be there, the players that are going to give their all to wear the shield. And I think you're completely right. We haven't seen that from the best, maybe skilled players, you would say.
They're all going to want to be there when it comes to the World Cup. That's not a question, right? Every player that plays professional soccer, I think, wants to be a part of the World Cup. Do they want to be there in 90-degree heat in the middle of the summertime in quote-unquote secondary competition? When you take a look at this starting 11, to me, there are some players who have really stepped forward. First thing I want to do is shout out players like Tyler Adams, Tim Ream, and Chris Richards, who are out there showing that they do, even though they've been playing at bigger clubs across the pond. Tim Ream's, of course, back in the United States now, but he's got that resume under his belt. They want to be a part of this, so I think you've got to circle those guys right off the bat. But for me, Diego Luna has proven that he has something that I think the national team's been lacking. Malik Tillman's been very good so far in this competition for me. I think he's starting to prove, and we'll talk later about the potential transfer for him to a bigger league and a bigger club. But some of these other players, they've had their ups and downs. Arfsten's been a little mercurial. He's had bad moments. He's had good moments. Ajiman, the skill's not quite there maybe compared to some of the other number 9s, but he does at least cause problems for other teams' backlines. And a player like Berhalter, I really liked what he's shown. He obviously had the bad moment with the penalty in this one. But I'm seeing a team, and it was a rock fight against Costa Rica. This was one of those CONCACAF matches where it was going to be, let's see if you guys are physical enough and mentally tough enough to handle what we're going to throw at you. And I thought Malik Tillman got fouled and kicked and pushed all over the park. and he didn't back down from it, and I didn't think players like Berhalter or Luna backed down from it either. And look, you might say, well, you're lowering the bar right now, but I actually think it has to start there. Before you can outplay your opponent, you have to outwork them, and I think we're starting to see a little bit of that coming with Pochettino as he gets his fingerprints on this team.
Well, Pochettino might have his goalkeeper at this point, too, because Matt Freese was outstanding. In penalties before that, yes, maybe he gives up the deflection where the equalizer goes in for Costa Rica. You can pick nits the entire time. But we didn't think that this was going to be a situation where Matt Turner was going into the World Cup not going to be the starting goalkeeper. There's a big question now, and it seems like Freese is starting to solidify his spot. What do you think, Nate? Now, we're only a year away from the World Cup.
He's got to be the front runner now. He has to be. What did he do to lose that, and what has Matt Turner done to gain that over this window that he's had? I think that what you've seen both up top and in the back for this national team between the number 9s and the goalkeepers is nobody actually stepping forward to take control of that job. We've been waiting for one of these number 9s, right? And whether it's because of injury or just lack of form, nobody's done it there. When it comes to the goalkeeper position, I think Matt Turner's had opportunity after opportunity. And I think even he knows he's got to get somewhere where he can play on a consistent basis. It's mind-blowing to see these names here. By the way, the bottom 3, Stefan, Schulte, Callender, all have dealt with injuries here lately. These are all the goalkeepers that have been called up under Pochettino. When you look at the history of the United States men's national team, going back to the days of Tony Meola all the way through Tim Howard and the many names in between, that's always been one of the biggest strong suits of the United States men's national team. And for whatever reason right now, there's a bunch of candidates, but nobody's really rushed to the forefront. I think you can make a mistake by overvaluing a penalty situation, but how many matches might come down to just that? And Freese showed he's cut out for it.
I mean, he's the PK professor, right? At Harvard, that's exactly what he did. He literally studied how to defend a penalty kick, looking at the hips, looking at all the different positioning. So many times, that's what it comes down to. I mean, we have seen that in World Cup after World Cup, and I think he is a player that gives maybe the United States an edge. But he's somebody that obviously is the front runner now for the goalkeepers. There are some players that are just not here at the Gold Cup that will be starting as long as, they're healthy. A Christian Pulisic, of course, a Jedi Robinson. What have we learned about the depth behind those spots? Even like a guy like Max Arston, you said that he's been mercurial. He's been up and down. He certainly was against Costa Rica. Has he earned a role on this team going forward?
I don't think that any of these guys have necessarily locked up spots yet. I want to see what happens in the semifinals against Guatemala. That's going to be a tougher game than it looks on paper. Just ask the Canadians, right? But if they can get to the final, and let's say it's against Mexico, this is a Mexico side that all of a sudden are in form now and seem to have calmed the waters a little bit. I want to see what these guys do in the next couple of games, hoping that they get 2 games out of this, because I'm not going to certainly write down a win against Guatemala like it's taken for granted. But let's hope they get 2 games. I want to see what they can do there. I do think some players are putting themselves in the conversation. And I don't think very many players from that supposed A team should just feel like my spot is locked up going into the camp next year. I'm loving what I've seen from Diego Luna. And look, I'm going to admit to you, I have an MLS bias. I call matches for MLS. I do think that sometimes the players are undervalued in that league. So I think that a player like Diego Luna gets a little bit undervalued right now when you look at him, but he also brings a creative flair, some ideas. One of the things you've got to do when you're the United States is you've got to be able to play games like this match coming up, presumably against Guatemala, where you're dictating the match. You have possession in the attacking third. The other side's bunkered in, and you have to have some ideas to unlock a defense like that. There's going to be other matches where you're pinned back and you're able to hit on the counter, and you have to play in that style. I think a Diego Luna type player is really what you need against a bunkered inside, because he has that flair. He has some creativity to him, and he's got a fire in his belly right now that I think really is contagious for the rest of the team.
Well, I mean, we'll see. The semifinals are going to be very interesting because, as you mentioned, the U.S. heavy favorites, I would say, to beat Guatemala. At least with this side, you hope so. And then can Mexico get there?